So I've gotten a little bit of pushback for my past videos when I said that Marxism, and by extension Maoism, as Marxism's third and highest stage, is anti-religious. The main reason why Marxism is atheistic is due to its rejection of metaphysical and idealist interpretations of reality. Just to review, metaphysics being the view that there are absolute, static, separate, and unchangeable elements within our reality, be they objects or phenomena. And idealism is the view that our minds and our perceptions, including ideas themselves, are independent from material reality rather than a product of it. Religious interpretations of reality rely on metaphysics and idealism to explain the presence of God, of miracles, of moral absolutes such as sin and holiness, the afterlife, of reincarnation, of destiny, the belief in the soul, and of the overall creation of the universe. As dialectical materialists, Marxists reject these concepts in our attempt to understand the nature of reality. Does this mean that someone has to be an atheist in order to be a Marxist? Well, it really depends. In order to practice Marxism, one must assume an atheistic interpretation of reality as a default. This is in order to derive an analysis of reality that is grounded in dialectical materialism. If someone examines the nature of the class struggle or of bourgeois society through the eyes of a metaphysician or an idealist, they may propose certain absolute truisms that muddles their interpretations, such as capitalism is evil and profit is sinful, or it is the destiny of the good, the proletariat, to triumph over the evil, meaning the bourgeoisie. Here, the terms good and evil, destiny and sin, have no discernible meaning outside of subjective interpretations inspired by a religious and therefore metaphysical bias. And while you would be hard-pressed to find a Marxist that doesn't believe capitalism is evil, this sort of moralistic argument is something that is often seen in the arguments of the utopians rather than the Marxists. Why is this? It's not because Marxists are just a bunch of stick-in-the-muds and neck-bearded atheists who hate Jesus, but rather it's because our theoretical framework seeks to interpret reality without resorting to metaphysics and idealism. Arguments and theoretical frameworks derived from metaphysics and from idealism are weak and inherently subjective. They don't tell us anything about how human society developed as a series of stages revolving around production. They don't give us a concrete explanation for class struggle or the mechanisms of capitalist exploitation. And they can't explain how Marxists can derive knowledge and understand contradictions in a way that applies these observations to form models that have both predictive and explanatory power. And so because of this, metaphysical and idealist analyses are not a good basis to form an entire theoretical framework. Marxism is a science, and as with any science, you can't explain chemical, physical, or biological processes by citing supernatural phenomena as an explanation. You can't publish a paper and say, "Oh, what caused this chemical reaction? I guess God must have done it," and expect that to get peer-reviewed or accepted by the scientific community. In order to practice science, you must assume an atheistic worldview by default. So before, when I said that it depends on whether or not you're practicing Marxism, I simply meant that when you're interpreting reality and forming logical knowledge about the world as a Marxist, that simply means that you can't resort to religious interpretations with your analysis. Just like a scientist can't cite miracles as explanations for observed phenomena, and like how many scientists can practice and believe in religion in their personal lives, Marxists are free to do the same, with the understanding and discipline that their religious views must remain separate from their practice of Marxist analysis. So how should Marxists view religion? Marx was very clear on the subject when he said the famous phrase, "Religion is the opiate of the masses." But there is much more to this than what is often assumed at first glance, as some sort of atheistic neckbeard slogan that gets tossed around willy-nilly. As for dialectical and historical materialists, we understand the historical development of religion, particularly organized religion, as a product of class society, forming a crucial part of the superstructure, which serves to reinforce the class system within the society in which that particular religion exists. One good example is the Hindu concept of the caste system. The Hindu religion divides society into a hierarchy of castes, which strictly dictate the role that individuals play within society, who you can and cannot marry, and what sort of job you may have. Similarly, the Christian religion sets roles for men and women, forbids certain sexual and social practices such as homosexuality, polyamory, and getting a tattoo. And Islam forbids things like the consumption of alcohol and pork. These are generalizations, of course, because within different societies, with different class systems, there are varying degrees to which different religious rules are interpreted and applied. This shows us something important, that religion is a living, changing concept that is altered according to the society in which it manifests. This dialectical and historical materialist view of religion may seem to be heretical to many, but to the Marxist, it makes perfect sense. As religious ideas are viewed by Marxists to be a product of material reality, it makes sense that it would change over time as it manifests across various superstructures. It also makes sense that as a large part of the superstructure within class society, religion would be used as a tool of the ruling class and the suppression of the subordinate classes. In ancient Egypt or ancient China and ancient Japan, the pharaohs and the emperors were viewed as living incarnations of the gods, or descendants of the gods, and were divinely ordained to rule. In medieval Europe, the feudal monarchs were officially approved by the church as having the divine right to rule. Concepts like the divine right to rule and the mandate of heaven were used to justify the class systems of despotic slave societies and feudal societies. Religion is also utilized in contemporary societies, be they bureaucrat comprador societies of the imperialized world, Western bourgeois societies, and others such as Iranian society, or even progressive governments such as Venezuela or Nicaragua in the form of liberation theology. Even in the People's Republic of China, you have Confucian elements within the albeit revisionist concept of socialism with Chinese characteristics. This shows us that religion takes on a reinforcing role within the superstructure of class society, and can sometimes even be a progressive force. And for many Marxists who adopt atheism and rejects all form of religiosity within the movement, this fact is often lost on them. This has wide implications for the Maoist movement, which understands the nature of how class struggle persists and intensifies under socialism. As a society emerges from colonialism, semi-feudalism, or capitalism, it carries within it a certain amount of leftover baggage. The economic revolution within the base may occur, but there also needs to be a revolution within the cultural superstructure as well. But why? If we change the base and form a socialist economy without changing the superstructure, the prevailing ideas and worldviews within the new society will still be dominated by metaphysics and idealism. This takes the form of bourgeois common sense and concepts like the mandate of heaven or the caste system. It's only a matter of time before these ideas intrude into the vanguard party and start to worm their way into the policy of the proletarian government. This will lead to the emergence and promotion of reactionary thought and will eventually manifest as a form of revisionism which will lead the revolution astray. The goal of socialism is to lead society out of capitalism and into communism. A communist society would be free of class divisions and would have no use for concepts like the divine right of kings or the mandate of heaven or even the caste system. Patriarchal divisions between men and women would be eroded away, and sexual and gender norms would be radically different from the cis-heteronormative and monogamous system that we have today. It's entirely likely that this radical transformation would be slow and gradual, but it may also be punctuated and intensified in certain stages, such as a cultural revolution. Cultural revolutions become necessary as a way to combat reaction and counter-revolution, as well as the emergence of a bourgeois headquarters within the vanguard party itself. It is a means by which politics stays firmly in the command of the proletariat and the revolutionary trajectory towards communism is maintained. So does this mean that everyone has to be forced to renounce all religion and become atheist in this new socialist society? Obviously not. When you consider the mass line, it's very important not to push the masses into rejecting religious views they hold dearly to, but this must be balanced with a push against reactionary elements within religion. It is a necessity for communists to push back against monarchical, patriarchal, chauvinistic, and xenophobic views within religion. And just as religion has done so in the past under previous superstructures, religion must change and modify itself to harmonize with the new socialist superstructure as well. This means a religion that doesn't impede the path to communism, doesn't intrude on dialectical and historical materialist analyses, doesn't foster reactionary thought, and doesn't inspire counter-revolution and opposition. Eventually, however, with the development of socialism into communism, and through one or multiple cultural revolutions, religiosity will sublimate. This sublimation may not take the form of a sudden and violent end, but it will wither away, just as the state itself will one day gradually wither away. As dialectical materialism becomes the dominant worldview within the socialist superstructure, religion will vanish from the minds of the people, and its institutions will assume less and less of a role within society, being confined to personal beliefs rather than a systemic power. This may not result in the complete annihilation of all religious views, but it will see the role of religion within society decrease significantly. To many religious Marxists, this idea may seem scary, but take note of the fact that it is possible to practice Marxism while also holding personal religious beliefs. Therefore, it is possible to have religion in a socialist society as long as the realm of religion remains confined to personal beliefs rather than an institutionalized power. I'm not here to tell you how to reconcile religion with Marxism. That will be up to the individual. As religion is subjective, it will be up to each religious Marxist on how they can reconcile and separate their religiosity from their Marxist practice. It will require discipline and thinking outside of the mold of traditional religious interpretations, as religion is a product of class society and contains elements of bourgeois common sense, feudal notions of divine rights, mandates of heaven, and other ideas on sexual and gender norms and societal roles and caste systems. But all of that is to say, it is the duty of religious Marxists to harmonize their religious worldview with Marxism while not corrupting or polluting the process of dialectical materialist analysis with metaphysics. So thank you so much for watching. That about does it. Be sure to check out my other videos, like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments down below, and tell me what a neck-bearded, trench coat-wearing, fedora-tipping atheist I am. Have a nice day. Danky King out. Catch you next time.